I prayed for 30 days straight as an atheist, and this is what I've discovered. And it's actually been very interesting.
It is the world can no longer be described only in terms of stuff, but it has to be described. The world is made of love.
When I was a young boy, I would pray every now and then. It was more something that when there was an extreme situation that might have happened, such as I wake up and I have a horrible dream about my parents, I would then go out to them crying, and then I would come back into my room and I would pray that they would be okay. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know who I was talking to, and I would only ever do it circumstantially. I think like a lot of people do. And then as I got older, I started to become a lot more logical and rational with my thinking, like most people do. So I'm 32 now, and most of my life I have been a very strict atheist, not just someone that simmers by and doesn't really care or doesn't think too much about it. I loved watching videos online of people like Richard Dawkins or one of the new atheists just tear down religion and tear down this idea of God and just how ridiculous it is. So if I've been such a strict atheist for so long, then why would I bother praying at all, if not every day for 30 days? I realized that if you keep leaning on atheism and science and rationality, it can lead you into a very dark place, because science offers nothing when it comes to giving meaning to your life and helping you build a meaningful life and orient yourself towards something meaningful. It doesn't teach you how to do that. It doesn't tell you anything to do with that at all. What it actually does, I found, is it reduces everything that could possibly be meaningful. It reduces it down to its parts and pulls it apart and says, see, it's nothing but this. And it strips all meaning out of it. If you dive into that more and more, you become very nihilistic, where you feel like there's no point in being here anymore, because it's all just meaningless nothingness floating through this meaningless universe. And so I was falling into that trap, and I wasn't doing well. And it was people like Jordan Peterson is someone who's amazing, because I feel like he bridges the gap between the atheist kind of approach, reductionist approach, materialistic approach, and the religious. He kind of blends those two together. He's not really completely one side or the other. I would say, though, actually, he's quite against the new atheist movement. However, he doesn't state that he's a Christian. His beliefs on God are a little bit vague, but I like that, because I don't like when people just say this is what God is and this is what he's done, and it's very strict and it's in the Bible and everything's completely true, because I feel like then I either have to believe this really extraordinary story, otherwise I can't be close to God. And the stories in the Bible, they're fantastic, there's a lot to learn from them, but I'm not at the point where I can fully believe the story of Jesus Christ or anything like that. But I still want to find some sort of meaning in my life, and so the question came to me, which is there something or is there nothing? And that's the most basic way that I could put it. Is there something or is there nothing in this world? And I do believe there is something, because the feeling of nothing sends you into a dark pit of nihilism. In a weird way, the very fact that that's your response to those thoughts makes me, in a weird way, kind of feel like they can't be accurate. It can't be accurate if that's the end result. I also thought it would be completely ignorant to sit here and think that I know everything about everything, because it's all logical and rational and science explains everything. It would be so incredibly ignorant to sit here in 2025 and just think, I was just born in the perfect time where we figured everything out. So that kind of gave me permission to be like, well, there's no way I can say with absolute certainty that science can explain everything about the world. Like, it's just ridiculous to think that. It's just so silly to think that. And so there was something. There's got to be something. So what is that something? And the first thing I needed to do was to remove myself and pull myself away from my strict logical framework of thinking about the world and perceiving the world. Because one, it was not helping me find meaning in my life, and two, it was restricting me from fully experiencing life. It's like I was inside this, like a cup, and I'm in this cup, and I'm looking around, and I can see everything. This is life. But little did I know that I was inside this little cup of science and logical, rational thinking, and that actually there's all this life outside of this cup which I had no idea. And in order to experience that, I had to get rid of this framework. I do believe there's more ways of understanding life than just breaking things down to their parts and understanding them rationally. And so the next step for me was to start living out these questions. I decided I've been thinking about life so much, it's time for me to actually feel and experience life. And in order to do that, instead of thinking about these questions to try and answer them, I need to start living out the questions. And it's been one of the best things I could possibly ever recommend to anyone. Live out your questions. And the example I can give is, I can't remember what book I read it in, but the example in this book was essentially saying that there's two types of people in the world. There's the logical, and then there's the man with faith. And they both give an instruction: turn this wheel and you will receive what you need, essentially. And so the logical man is like, I don't trust this. This doesn't make sense to me. Hold on a second. Before I do anything, I just want to sit here and analyze this first and really think about it and make sure that it all makes sense before I believe it and actually act or do anything about it. And so he's sitting there and he's thinking, he's looking at the wheel, he's like, he's kind of pulling it apart and like poking at it and prodding at it, and he's like, nah. Whereas the man with faith listens and he's like, look, I could sit here, I could try to understand, or I could just take a small leap of faith and turn this wheel. And he turns the wheel and water comes out. And he's drinking the water, and the water's, keeping him alive and whatnot, while the other man, day after day, suffers and eventually dies. The story is something like that. But the metaphor is essentially trying to say that actually if you end up acting things out, you'll find more answers than if you just sit there and think about things all the time. So I decided two things. I decided there is something, and I decided to start living out questions to get my answers. And this is what's led me to doing something like prayer. So what do I mean when I say I prayed? Because there's a lot of different forms of prayer. And so one of the ones I did was I'd actually learned this from a Russell Brand video on YouTube, funnily enough. But I went through a few, would sit there in the quiet, and I would try to feel like I'm talking to something higher than myself. Whatever God might be to you, there's so many different ways to explain what God is. So I'm not going to try to describe what I feel God is. Like, you have your version, I have my version. It doesn't matter. The point is, I'm trying to sit there and I'm trying to access or speak to or connect with something higher and other than myself. This something, when I say, is there nothing or something, I'm trying to access that something. I sit there and I say things that I'm grateful for that day. I also sit there and I send good energy and I pray for people which I feel like really need it in those moments, close friends and family or anyone that I'm aware of. That feels really good when you do that though as well. Like that feels so nice to sit there and feel like you're pushing energy towards someone that really needs it. I also pray for answers. So anything that I'm wrestling with, I will sit there and I will consult with my conscience on what's the best way to move forward. And in fact, I'm going to stick on this for a second, because this was one of the main things that I did throughout the 30 days and continue to do and will continue to do. One of the biggest benefits I found through prayer was when there might be a situation that arises in my day-to-day life where I need some sort of answers. I need some help or guidance. So what I'll do is I will go and find a spot somewhere, and I will sit, close my eyes, and I will wait till the noise and the chatter simmers down, and I will talk to that something up there and consult with essentially my conscience and say, what do I do moving forward? And the hard part is deciphering what is your ego and your thoughts, which are your conscience, which is based in what I feel is an underlying moral hierarchy which underpins reality. So I sit with that and I talk with my conscience and I get answers. The thing is, I get answers, and the answers are very accurate. and they're very helpful, and they work. And that's what's amazing, is if you sit there and you sit with your conscience long enough and you ask the right questions, you will get answers. And if you act upon those answers, I guarantee they will push you in the right direction. And so that's been extremely helpful for me. Another thing I've learned to do is to stop caring about what other people think and give up the need to be right, because it also gives you yourself permission to just have a personal relationship with your own spirituality or religion or God or whatever it might be. And that is the most important thing. Is I spend far too much time worrying about what kind of conversations I would have with my friends or family who have always known me as to be quite a strict, logical thinker that rejects any idea of religion. That is tough. It's tough to wrestle with that. However, I've learned that none of that matters at all. It just doesn't matter. So it's been 30 days now. I'm going to continue to do prayer every single day. Oh, there's a dolphin. I'm going to show you the dolphin, guys. Anyway, that's the video. I'm going to go film these dolphins, so stick around and watch that. Oh, there's like 4 of them. Let's go see the dolphins.